Greetings, fellow survivors. Today we're delving into a chilling thought experiment. What if solo leveling came to our world? How fast would we adapt, and how many nations would fall? Buckle up, because we're about to explore a world where dungeons and monsters collide with reality. Coffee runs would be replaced by dungeon delves, gym bros transformed into shadow soldiers, and your morning newsfeed dominated by monster rankings and hunter heroics. Setting the stage. Solo leveling introduced us to a world where dungeons erupted globally, and ordinary people became hunters to combat the monstrous threats. Now, let's imagine the same scenario unfolding in our world. How would nations, governments, and individuals cope with the sudden emergence of dungeons? Imagine dungeons erupting not just in isolated regions, but simultaneously across continents. The world, united in its vulnerability, would face a challenge of unprecedented magnitude. How fast could humanity adapt to a global apocalypse? Immediate chaos. The initial eruption of dungeons would plunge the world into chaos. News networks would scramble to cover the unfolding events, governments would declare states of emergency, and citizens would grapple with the sudden reality of monsters roaming their streets. The emergence of dungeons and supernatural entities could have profound effects on the environment. Ecosystems might collapse, weather patterns could become unpredictable, and the very fabric of the planet could be altered. The impact on the environment would add another layer of complexity to the adaptation process. Humanity would not only be fighting for survival against monsters, but also against the changing face of the Earth. The speed of our adaptation would largely depend on how quickly information spreads and how efficiently governments can respond. The first few days would be critical in determining the scale of the crisis. In the digital age, information is both a blessing and a curse. News outlets would compete to cover the unfolding events, social media would be flooded with eyewitness accounts, and misinformation could spread like a wildfire. The speed at which we can disseminate accurate information would be crucial. Governments and organizations would need to establish reliable communication channels to prevent mass hysteria. That means the interconnectedness of our world would mean that information, both accurate and exaggerated, could spread rapidly. The immediate challenge would be distinguishing fact from fiction. The birth of hunters. As in solo leveling, some individuals would awaken powers, becoming new breeds of heroes, the hunters. From ordinary citizens to professionals, people would quickly adapt to their newfound abilities. The emergence of hunters would provide a glimmer of hope amidst the chaos. The question is, how fast would these hunters organize themselves, and could they become a global force to counter the threat? Would they collaborate or compete for resources and influence? The global nature of the apocalypse would force nations to collaborate on an unprecedented scale. International alliances would form to share resources, intelligence, and strategies. However, differences in political ideologies and national interests could also lead to discord. How fast could global leaders set aside their differences to address a threat that knows no borders? The survival of humanity might depend on the ability to find common ground. Global power shift. Different regions would experience varying degrees of impact. Countries with high concentration of dungeons would see a power shift, with hunters becoming the new protectors and leaders. Nations less affected might extend support, while those overwhelmed could face internal strife and potential collapse. The adaptability of countries would be crucial. Those quick to organize and utilize their hunters effectively would likely maintain stability, while others might succumb to the chaos. With dungeons emerging worldwide, mass migration would become inevitable. Countries experiencing severe outbreaks would see a surge in refugees seeking safety. The sheer scale of displacement could lead to a humanitarian crisis, testing the empathy and resources of neighboring nations. Nations would be forced to grapple with questions of compassion, border control, and resource allocation. The ability to manage this crisis could determine the fate of entire regions. Technological advancements. Our world would witness an unprecedented surge in technological advancements. Drones equipped with cameras and sensors would monitor dungeon activities. Artificial intelligence would analyze monster behavior, providing valuable insight for strategic planning. Military research and development would focus on creating weapons imbued with magical properties. The race to harness technology against the supernatural threat would redefine the global technological landscape. Imagine a world where our greatest minds unite to combat the shadows. Technology, our double-edged sword, would play a pivotal role. While advancements in AI, surveillance, and weaponry would aid the fight against dungeons, the dependence on technology could also become a vulnerability if disrupted by the supernatural forces. Striking a balance between utilizing technology and not becoming over-reliant on it would be a delicate dance in this new world. The global economy would also take a massive hit. Industries dependent on stability and infrastructure would crumble. The stock markets would experience unprecedented fluctuations, and currencies could lose their value as nations redirect resources to combat the supernatural threat. Adaptation on an economic scale would be essential. The nations quickest to innovate and redirect their economic resources could have a better chance of weathering the storm. Political alliances and struggles. politicians would find themselves grappling with a new world order. Global summits would shift from economic discussions to strategies against shadow monarchs. Alliances would form and dissolve as nations negotiated access to high-rank dungeons and shared intelligence. Geopolitical power dynamics would be reshaped. Countries with abundant dungeon resources might become global powerhouses, while others would rely on alliances and aid, creating a delicate balance of power. As nations face a common enemy, a global identity might begin to emerge. The shared struggle against the supernatural could lead to cultural shifts, the dissolution of certain nationalistic ideologies, and the birth of a new era defined by unity and adversity. The ability of humanity to come together and adapt on a cultural level would be the silver lining in an otherwise dark apocalypse. Social strains. Society itself would undergo a profound transformation. Universities would turn into research centers focused on magic and countermeasures. Gyms would become training grounds for hunters honing their skills. The average citizen, now aware of the supernatural threat, would face the constant fear of the unknown. The adaptability of our social structures would be tested. How would communities deal with the disparity between awakened and non-awakened individuals? Would there be solidarity or division? Ethical dilemmas and corruption. Just like in solo leveling, power disparities would lead to ethical dilemmas. Powerful guilds might exploit weaker hunters, monopolizing dungeons and resources. Corruption could infiltrate the ranks of hunters, giving rise to black markets for rare artifacts and questionable alliances. The battle against the supernatural wouldn't only be external, but also a struggle against the darkness that creeps into human hearts when faced with power and fear. The supernatural threat would undoubtedly challenge established belief systems. Religious institutions might grapple with interpreting the events, and individuals could question the very fabric of their existence. How fast could societies reconcile their beliefs with the tangible presence of the supernatural? The crisis of faith could be as significant as the physical challenges faced. The enigma of the Shadow Monarch. Amidst the chaos, the enigmatic entity, the Shadow Monarch, would cast a shadow of uncertainty. Would it be a monstrous enemy or something more complex? Alliances formed to combat common threats might crumble when faced with a force beyond human comprehension. What if the Shadow Monarch is not the only mysterious force at play? Rogue AIs, ancient gods, or interdimensional beings could vie for control in this reshaped reality. The everyday heroes. In the face of despair, solo leveling teaches us about the resilience of the human spirit. The hero isn't just the one with the coolest powers, it's the everyday person choosing to fight for what's right. Whether you're a doctor tending to wounded hunters, a scientist developing anti-monster tech, or a teacher inspiring the next generation, everyone can make a difference in this fantastical reality. As we conclude this journey into the realm of imagination, solo leveling reminds us that even in the face of the unknown, the true hero emerges within each of us. Stay vigilant, stay courageous, and remember, rise above your limits. For in the face of the unknown, the true hero within us all emerges. So, adventurers, the question remains, would you survive in the solo leveling world? Would you thrive? That's for you to decide. Share your thoughts in the comment section below. Let's speculate together about the heroes we all have the potential to be. Imagine a teacher in India crafting magical textbooks, a farmer in Brazil learning how to channel plant life as a defense, or a programmer in Germany hacking into dungeon systems to disrupt monster spawns. Every act of courage, every spark of ingenuity, and every decision to choose good over fear fuels the fight against the shadows. Remember, the gates might still be closed, but the hero within us is all waiting to awaken. Train your mind, hone your skills, and channel your inner hunter. Because if the solo leveling scenario ever unfolds, we'll need every brave soul ready to stand tall in the face of the unknown. And with that, we bid you farewell. Until next time, fellow survivors.